그럼 먼저 미국 기회특구 성공사례와 한국의 시사점을 주제로 국제사례 발제를 진행하겠습니다. 조나단타워 대표님께서 영상을 통해 말씀해 주시겠습니다. 영상 함께 보시죠.
Ladies, gentlemen, and esteemed guests, thank you for the opportunity to participate in this exciting conversation today with the Presidential Committee for Decentralization and Balanced Development of the Republic of Korea to discuss opportunity zones as a potential tool for helping revitalize underserved communities. My name is Jonathan, and I was invited to speak here today about the United States Opportunity Zone program and to provide a data-driven assessment of the program's performance from 2017 until today. I am the founder and chief executive officer of Arctaris Impact Investors, the largest impact-focused opportunity zone fund manager nationally in the United States. I'm also a member of the EIG Federal Policy Working Group and the Technical Corrections Working Group. My two goals in participating in those groups were, one, to ensure that the Opportunity Zone program remains suitable for institutional investors, and two, to ensure that the program will honor the spirit of the legislation to support low-income families. Our firm Arctaris invests not only in real estate like most Opportunity Zone funds do, but also in private equity businesses and infrastructure projects. Our investors include some of the largest United States banks, insurance companies, foundations, and city, state, and federal government agencies. Arctaris has worked with many economic stimulus programs created by the U.S. government, as well as state government partners. The Opportunity Zone program, in our experience, is more valuable than all of the other economic development stimulus programs combined. So with that, I'd like to share my slides. Today, I'm honored to discuss the United States Opportunity Zone program as a tax incentive and potentially offer some insights into how South Korea could benefit from implementing its own version of this incentive. As a quick background, the Opportunity Zone concept was introduced in the United States under the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 to revitalize economically distressed communities in the United States. Opportunity zones present a unique opportunity for South Korea to stimulate economic growth, attract investment, and foster community development. Opportunity zones offer tax incentives to investors who invest into designated low-income areas. In the United States, the governors of each of the 50 states were tasked with selecting their zones based on specific criteria, and their primary goal is to encourage private investment in sectors that need it most. As a quick background on opportunity zones, this is a tax incentive that allows investors with capital gains to defer those gains. And if they keep their investments invested in the Opportunity Zone Fund for a full 10-year period, their gains upon exit will be exempted from federal and often also from state capital gains taxation. This was a highly novel approach. Historically, if you look back over many decades of economic stimulus programs in the United States or even South Korea, the governments have implemented stimulus programs that offered incentives to corporations and to real estate developers to do business in these underserved areas. What makes opportunity zones really interesting and innovative is that instead of giving the incentives to corporations and developers, the OZ program gives these incentives to investors because, after all, it's from investors where the capital comes from. And the investors are being attracted to put their private dollars to the areas that need it most. One of the reasons that opportunity zones have been so successful in the United States is that the program allows trained investors to make educated decisions with their own money. Already, it's easy to say that Opportunity Zones are the most successful U.S. economic development program in history. Let's look at the data from a recent November 2022 research paper. It was authored by two economists from the U.S. Treasury Department named David Coyne and Craig Johnson, using preliminary IRS data from 2018 through 2020 to provide a survey of the amount and reach of early OZ investments. Investments had already totaled $48 billion at the end of 2020. And today, it's estimated that OZ investments have totaled an estimated $110 billion. OZ investment reached approximately 3,800 communities between mid-2018 and 2020. That represents nearly half of the total number of designated Opportunity Zones nationwide. In comparison, if you look at the next most successful economic development program, it took 18 years for the New Market Tax Credit program to reach an equivalent number of communities. In fact, investment through Opportunity Zones incentives had reached nearly half of Opportunity Zones by the end of 2020, and the communities receiving Opportunity Zone investment were significantly more economically distressed than the rest of the country. Further, Opportunity Zone investments are going to communities, if you look ranked from lowest to highest levels of need, they ranked 87th percentile for poverty, 81st percentile for median household income, and 80th percentile for unemployment. Total Opportunity Zone investment capital was raised from 21,000 individual investors, 4,000 corporate Opportunity Zone investors, and it was deployed into 7,800 Opportunity Zone funds, according to the IRS. The Opportunity Zone designation also caused a large and immediate increase in new commercial and residential development activity, such that the likelihood of investment in a given month jumped by over 20% in designated tracts across 47 different cities that were part of the study. Rather than crowding out local activity, Opportunity Zone designations carried positive economic spillovers into neighboring communities and boosted development at a citywide scale. In addition to boosting the supply of housing, Opportunity Zone designations improved local home values across the country. Before we jump into Arctaris, I'd like to take a pause and view a video that helps capture the scope of our work. So allow me to switch the screen share here. So there you have it. We're really proud of the type of work that we do in these communities, and it's really evident in that video and also our general reporting. But I want to take a little bit more time here to talk about some specifics to our approach to doing what we do and why we do it, more importantly. So I mentioned earlier, Arctaris is the largest opportunity zone fund manager in the United States. Our OZ funds invest in businesses, private businesses, community infrastructure projects, and also real estate, principally housing. And most of our investment happens through place-based programs where we have a specific arrangement with a city government, a county government, or a state government to do a particular type of investment in their communities. Recaro is an example of one of the companies that we've invested in. They're a tier 1 manufacturer of automotive seats. We also invested in AEL, a third-party logistics provider. We're investing in a lot of housing, places like Brooklyn, Huntsville, Alabama, rural Colorado. We also invest in clean energy projects, broadband fiber, wireless, and even highways. As I mentioned earlier, we invest primarily through place-based programs. Baltimore, Maryland is an example of one of those place-based programs. If you look at the top row, you see some of the buildings that used to be standing in Poppleton, which is a low-income part of Baltimore City. Down below, you see the green shoots emerging. We invested in a grocery store in a food desert and have under construction age-restricted housing for seniors and affordable as well. Another example is Erie, Pennsylvania. Now, Erie, Pennsylvania is America's lowest income zip code. The average median income is about $11,000. If you look in the top right, this was a building that we purchased. It had been largely abandoned. It was falling apart. There were holes in the roof. And we partnered with the community foundation. We partnered with the city government and partnered with Erie Insurance to lead an ambitious redevelopment plan to bring it back to its former grandeur. So we put in housing, a grocery store in a food desert, and a food hall. And the Erie redevelopment plan keeps continuing. We're doing a second block right now adjacent to the building that you see here. One very important thing that I think policymakers should keep in mind is transparency. In the United States, the Opportunity Zone legislation does not require Opportunity Zone investors to report much back to Congress or to the IRS or to their stakeholders about the benefits that these taxpayer funded programs are delivering. We think it's important. We advocate for a higher bar for impact reporting and stakeholder transparency. And I think it's something important that members of this audience might want to consider too. The way we do this primarily is through an annual impact report. We have a third party, which is Harvard Business School's Initiative for a Competitive Inner City. It's a nonprofit that validates things like job creation and housing and how many households a broadband fiber project passed by. So these are very important criteria. And I think it's important for government policymakers to be able to measure what kind of benefits they're getting out of these tax incentives. It should also be important for investors in these funds and stakeholders alike. So I hope this is the start of many conversations. Of course, I've got my email address, jonathan@arctaris.com, our investor relations. And at the bottom, the bit.ly link is to our Arctaris annual report, which I just mentioned. This QR code will also take you to the impact report. With that, I'd really like to turn the conversation to Korea. And let's answer the question, would opportunity zones achieve success in Korea? I think that there's a high opportunity to do that here, and I'd love to start that conversation. I am excited to share our experience with this audience in hopes that it might encourage South Korea to adopt a similar policy. Of course, I'm honored to share our experience in the United States and explore ways how Arctaris could help build a vibrant opportunity zone program in Korea. I'll be first to acknowledge that the roots of poverty are complex to understand and even harder to change. This is true both in the United States and in Korea. There are a number of factors that contribute to high poverty rates, of course. These include geography. Just think about it. Many low-income areas are located in mountainous or rural areas, which are difficult to attract investment and make it hard to create jobs. Second is economic structure. The US and South Korean economies are both heavily reliant on manufacturing. This is a sector that's obviously declined in recent decades. The decline has led to job losses in many of the low-income areas, which are disproportionately reliant on manufacturing. And third are, of course, social factors. Many low-income areas in the United States and South Korea have high rates of unemployment, crime, and social isolation. These factors can make it difficult for people to escape poverty. So with these challenges in mind, what are we going to do about it? South Korea could greatly benefit from the U.S. Opportunity Zone tax incentive in several ways. First, it could help attract more investment dollars by providing tax incentives for investors who invest in designated economically distressed areas. Second, it could help revitalize these areas and create new economic opportunities, which could lead to job creation and overall economic growth. And finally, it could help bridge the gap between different regions in South Korea, reducing regional disparities and promoting a more balanced regional development policy. So here are some specific examples of the tangible benefits that we might hope opportunity zones will deliver. One, attracting private investment. By introducing opportunity zones, South Korea can attract investors looking for incentives and higher after-tax returns on their investments. This influx of capital can boost the country's economic development programs, create jobs, spur economic growth in targeted regions, and develop further housing. Two, promote growth in small businesses located in underserved areas. South Korea has a strong and vibrant entrepreneurial culture and a large pool of capital that could be invested in these communities. Three, job creation. The establishment of opportunity zones can lead to the creation of job opportunities, particularly in distressed areas. This not only reduces unemployment, but also improves the overall quality of life for the local population. Four, place-based development. Adopting opportunity zones would enable South Korea to address regional disparities in development, in construction, housing, and overall prosperity. It could direct investment to areas that have historically been underserved, helping to bridge the urban-rural divide and reducing regional inequalities. Five, infrastructure development. South Korea could use this opportunity to upgrade clean and renewable energy generation, align economic development with environmental responsibility. It can be used for communications, like broadband fiber networks, cell towers. It can be used for transportation, education, and healthcare, and other critical infrastructure in these areas. Six, both affordable housing and workforce housing. Certainly, the largest asset class to benefit from opportunities in the U.S. has been housing. We've seen heavy demand for it in new housing developments, which is particularly remarkable at a time when material costs and labor costs are at near record highs, stifling development in other areas. And finally, seven, long-term impact. While the short-term benefits are evident, opportunity zones can have a lasting impact. The fact that opportunity zone investments must be held for 10 years to get the full tax incentive signals the intention of the program and also aligns investors and developers with community interests. Opportunity zones in the U.S. are transforming disadvantaged areas into thriving economies, and South Korea should consider carefully whether such programs would contribute to your overall economic stability. In conclusion, the adoption of Opportunity Zone tax incentives could be a game changer for South Korea. It provides a structured framework for attracting private capital, aligning it with community objectives, fostering regional development, and creating opportunities for low-income individuals. If its experience is like anything that I've seen in the United States, then South Korea can address economic disparities, encourage sustainable growth, and enhance its global competitiveness. It's an opportunity that holds immense potential and should be seriously considered for the benefit of the nation and its people. Moreover, I believe that the Opportunity Zone tax incentive has the potential to make a real difference in the lives of South Koreans living in low-income communities today. I urge the South Korean government to seriously consider adopting this program. Thank you so much, and I would look forward to continuing this conversation in the near future.